nearly 11 million Americans to lose unemployment benefits in April without further aid. About 11 million Americans will lose unemployment benefits in about 2 months without additional COVID help, according to a new analysis. According to research published Wednesday by the Century Foundation, a left-leaning think tank, this so-called benefit gap is greater than the situation faced by workers in December when Congress was discussing the limits of the $900 billion outbreak relief measure. However, the Democrats seem ready to pass the $1.9 trillion aid package proposed by President Joe Biden last month, which will cross another chasm. Unemployment benefits gap. December's $900 billion package extended two temporary federal programs, Pandemic Unemployment Aid and Pandemic Emergency Unemployment Compensation, that would eventually expire the day after Christmas. Now, these programs that support long-term unemployed and others such as self-employed and business workers have been extended until March 14. Workers who have not consumed their allowance by this date can continue to collect aid until April 11. According to the Century Foundation analysis written by senior researcher Andy Stetner and policy advisor Elizabeth Pancotti and Employ America, about 10.6 million people will lose their aid by mid-April and will not qualify for more assistance from other programs. According to the analysis, this figure corresponds to about 1.5 million more workers than were ready to lose their unemployment benefits in December. Biden stimulus plan. Biden's $1.9 trillion epidemic aid proposal will expand and increase unemployment benefits, according to a proposal published by Democrats in the House on Monday. The aid will last until August 29 and include a $400 per week increase in benefits, more than the current $300. The Democrats aim to enforce the law without the Republican vote, using a special budgetary measure called compromise. We are not facing this kind of torture, stop-and-go negotiations we face in the fall, Stetner said. There is a sense of urgency from the Biden administration to do this. However, some opponents believe that Biden's stimulus scheme could ultimately damage the United States economy by offering people an incentive to remain unemployed. Increasing weekly unemployment benefits seems merciful, but prove that doing so leads to higher unemployment rates, said Matthew Dickerson, budget analyst at the conservative think tank the Heritage Foundation. In the spring and summer, when Washington paid workers a $600 weekly unemployment supplement, but jobs were scarce, economic research found no evidence of such a deterrent effect. It is unclear how the extra benefits will affect workers in the current economy, according to economists. The pandemic pushes millions from the labor force. That is bad news. Millions of workers have left the workforce since the early days of the COVID outbreak. This is bad news for families and the wider economy. According to labor experts, this will likely be hampered by lower household income and worker output. The dynamic also makes the US unemployment rate artificially low, depending on how federal officials measure the unemployment measure. It is bad for individuals, bad for people suffering. It hurts the general economy, and this makes decline even more difficult, said Heidi Sherholz, policy director at the Institute for Economic Policy, a left-leaning think tank and former chief economist in the Labor Department. 4.3 million remaining workforce, about 406,000 people left the workforce between December and January, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported on Friday. A total of 4.3 million workers left since the beginning of the pandemic, according to Bureau data. such individuals are not considered unemployed. The unemployment rate only applies to workers who left their jobs in the past month or are actively seeking work. However, workers leaving the labor force are functionally, if not technically, unemployed. They may want a job, but cannot or do not seek work. According to economists, the pandemic has exacerbated the trend that typically occurs during recessions. Economists said that while some of the downturn was likely due to reasons unrelated to the recession, baby booms retiring, for example, the pandemic likely accounted for a large part. Childcare is perhaps the biggest contributor, as parents are set aside to take care of e-learning kids from home. Basic employees may also choose to stay away from face-to-face work for fear of making themselves or family members sick. Others may feel that the chances of getting a new job are low in a challenging job market. By the nature of this recession, the phenomena is much more dramatic than the others, including the Great Recession, shareholders said. Workers may choose to re-enter the workforce as vaccines expand, the economy improves, and public safety measures such as distance learning diminish. But experts said the longer they step aside, the more difficult it may be for them to do so. Tracking the effect, decreased household income is among the factors that have the greatest impact on individuals outside of the labor force. Federal lawmakers helped and expanded the pool of people who were eligible for unemployment benefits during the pandemic. But economists said some fell through the cracks, and the benefits for those who qualify are temporary. Robert Williams, senior vice president of the Moody's credit rating agency, said the loss of income tends to hurt the U.S. economy as consumer spending accounts for more than 2/3 of that. Fewer workers probably mean less goods and services and reduces the overall productivity of the economy, he said. These economic impacts can mean less available jobs for people when they can re-enter the workforce. The lower the household income, the higher the demand for social services. Economists said the United States unemployment rate would likely have been much higher had it not been for workers to leave the workforce. In fact, the realistic unemployment rate was likely 8.3% compared to 6.3% officially reported in January. According to an analysis of Jason Furman and Wilson Powell, former chairman of the Economic Advisors Council during the Obama administration, research fellow at Harvard Kennedy School, I think the unemployment rate right now underestimates some of the damage we are seeing on the labor market, said Nick Bunker, an economist at the Indeed site. If you make any investment or legal decision, it is advised to consult an expert before making this decision.